Hey everyone. Yeah, you see the cover in the title. I'm reading off Dan Drazen's review of Sonic Universe 46. Now, issue 46 of Sonic Universe, as you know, is part 1 of the Chaotic Saga, basically the search for Mighty and Ray. And again, in case you don't know, Dan Drazen's rating system, it's very simple. If it's two stories, it basically, if you get a 30 out of 30, it's like an A plus. It's a 5 star. It's a must read. And if it's two stories, and then basically you combine both stories' overall score together for the issue. In other words, you get 60 out of 60 today. Go figure. So, anyway, this is what he says. Universe 46, released at the beginning of this year. Tracy Yarling and Downer as with the cover. The Chaotix, or what's left of them, doing their thing. SBO demonstrates his shuriken skills. Chami points at us, and Vector takes a flying leap at us. All signs that Tracy Yardlin has been watching too many 3D movies. Most of the time, it's about as useless as well as it is here. Alright, the title is All for One Part 1, Picking Up the Trail. Story by Ian Flynn, art by Tracy Yarlin, ink Jim Amish, color Matt Herms, lettering Jack Morrell, editor assistant Vincent Lovell, editor Paul Kaminsky, editor-in-chief Victor Golick, Bard in Avion, Mike Perithro, Sega representatives Ansi Gucci and Cindy Chow. And this is what he says, and I quote. The Chaotix find themselves in Deerwood Forest in Marseille. The Sonic Universe British knockoff. They do the bit for international relations by roughing up some of the locals. That's the cue for the action. And some more locals arrive escorted by goons, giants for offensive occupation and nullification, which is seriously unnatural even for this comic and reminds me of all those skull-deading acronyms used in code name Kids Next Door. For the duration, I'm going to call them Gorts. Because they look a lot like Gort, the robot, from the classic sci-fi film The Day the Earth Stood Still, the 1961 film, not the 2008 remake. Anyway, the action is the cue for the more action. Enter the Robin Hood knockoffs. There's Bo Sparrow, Alan Quayle, Munch Rat, Friar Buck, and Thor the Lop. More about this motley clue later. All you need to know right now is they're the good guys, so they win. Once the fighting starts, the talking begins, unfortunately. We get a doolop of exposition about the situation in Marseille. Then Charmy asks about Mighty and Ray, at which Bo suggested change of venue. Cut to Deerwood Forest, which could be the Great Forest or the Forest of Endor, for all we know. Anyway, we're about to plunge into a stunning 7.5 pages of exposition, with occasional breaks for the chorus, so you might want to grab a snack or go to the bathroom now, while you have a chance. Everybody ready? Strap in and hang on. Ray and Mighty have been looking for Mighty's sister, Matilda, since the tail end of the Iron Dominion story arc. That was like 3 years ago our time. Welcome to loose continuity, where the rules are non-existent and the passage of time doesn't mean anything. Anyway, M&R have been sending messages through to the gang back home by warping, though I'm pretty sure Skype would have been a better idea. The last letter they received said they were in Merced, which is confirmed by Robbo the Nest Bow Sparrow. The Merceds then supply some backstory. Seems Mighty and his family were exiled from Merced by what appears to be King Robbo Hedge's father. The narrative line is a little crooked here. And the architect's touches to the narration don't help. So I speak under correction. Long story a bit shorter. Mighty's reaction was pretty much bygones. Buck, acting more like a circle than a circ, had spirited away the kingdom's archives when Eggman came to town. Mighty used the records to trace Matilda's whereabouts, first to an orphanage, then to a robotization, relatively 5 years ago, comic book time. SBO interrupts the backstory to suggest hacking into the Eggnet to learn more, which would involve breaking into the castle. Never trust a ninja to do a hacker's job. But back to the backstory. R&M had the same idea. But on the eve of the op, Eggman's forces started wasting the forest. It takes the Merceds 2 pages of singing that never would have passed an audition for Spamalot to get the point where the Merceds stay behind to cover Ray and Mighty as they head for the castle. End of backstory. So now comes the third act. Impregnating the impregnable. Impenetrating the impenetrable. I guess that's what it says. I don't know. Impregnating? I don't know. It's something like. It says something of impenetrating the impenetrable castle. The Chaotix figure on logging into the Eggnet while freeing any prisoners they find along the way. The break-in itself takes 2 pages, as does the final scene where we see that Lord Hood is aware of what's going on and is looking forward to reenacting the torture scene from Princess Bride. Okay, now remember, if this gets a 30 out of 30, it's an A. If not, it gets lower. Like 25's a B, 20's a C, 15's a D, 10's an F. Alright, so the head story. 7+ pages. This is what he has to say about the head of the story. 7+ pages to set up a 2-page action sequence. Seriously. Yeah. Verily, yeah. With a hey nani nani and a hot cha cha. I know Ian had a lot of backstory to shoehorn in here, but 7 pages? Okay, it seems longer because of the comic relief breaks for singing. Unfortunately, the whole Misfit Freedom Fighters bit works about as well as Robin Hood Men in Tights, which seems like the most likely inspiration for this bit than the actual Robin Hood legend. It's not as if these characters are breaking new ground. They were all part of Robin Hood Hedge's gang, where they were known as Gag Me, the Crazy Critter Freedom Fighters. These characters date back to 1998's Friendly Rogues and Foul Villains by Ken Penders and Clayton Emery. But here, they don't bring much to the party. It's far better goof on the Robin Hood legend was the Q-Pied episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. My favorite bit, Worf's tribute to John Belushi's Bluto from Animal House, but I digress. The pacing is seriously off balance. Ian invested so much time. I try not to waste the phrase waste time, but there it is. On the Dear Word Forest song, and Dance adds that he doesn't have much left when it comes to the break-in at the castle, which at 2 pages feels rushed. I know the dialogue has been pared back to a base minimum, and I'm grateful. But with one more page at Ian's disposal, it could have been better. And it's not as if the music would have been missed. The story gets to where it's going, but I would have asked MapQuest for an alternative route. Head score 7. Alright. I score. He says here that Tracy Yarderman really gets to cut loose, especially when it comes to the page layouts. The use of the parchment scrolls were very effective, as was the muted coloring by Matt Herms, but the musical interludes were overdone in my opinion. I score 17. So far he's got a 17. That's pretty good. The Heart score, he says, this is oddly hot list installment. This is an oddly hot list installment. Since there's so much backstory to feel in, there's very little chance to connect with the material emotionally. When the singing's over, Vector's tribute to the selflessness of Ray and Mighty is the closest to a heart moment that we get. And in the spirit of the sequence, it feels more like a comic relief moment. I can only hope things pick up when and if they catch up to Ray and Mighty. Heart score 3. So overall, he gave him a 20 out of 30. So basically, a C plus average issue. A C plus average issue. So that's basically Dan Drazen's review of Sonic Universe 47. If you agree with him, go ahead, comment below. I'll provide a link to the review if I can. And that's all I'm going to say. Again, comment below. Tell me what you guys think. And I'll talk to you later.